Good morning, everyone. I am delighted to welcome you all today. Thank you for being here. Today, I will be talking about forest introduction and classification. My name is Dr. A.M. Anandakumar, and I am an assistant professor in the PG and Research Department of Botany at NGM College, Palachi. In this presentation, we will explore the fascinating world of forests, their types, and how they are classified. So let's get started and discover the important aspects of forests together. Vegetation, in simple terms, refers to the plant cover that we find in a particular area. When we look at India geographically, it's a tropical country, which means it generally has warm and humid conditions. Additionally, India experiences a strong monsoon climate, bringing heavy seasonal rains that significantly influence the types of vegetation we see here. It's interesting to note that India's climate and vegetation patterns are quite different from other tropical regions around the world. India can be divided into 4 major climatic regions: the wet zone, the intermediate zone, the dry zone, and the arid zone. Each of these zones has distinct climatic conditions, and these differences shape the natural vegetation in those areas. For example, the lush forests are typical of the wet zone, while the dry zone might support more sparse vegetation. Now, the natural vegetation isn't just determined by climate alone. Other factors come into play, such as altitude, how high up you are, types of soil, the kinds of animals that live there, and the overall climate. All these factors work together to influence what kind of plants grow and how they are distributed. Furthermore, the vegetation in the Indian subcontinent has been influenced by biotic factors, meaning living things like animals and plants, and also by human activity over thousands of years. The way humans have interacted with the environment, through practices like agriculture, deforestation, and urbanization, has left a lasting impact on plant formation and distribution. This influence of humans on vegetation is what we call the anthropogenic effect. So, in summary, understanding vegetation in India involves looking at its climatic zones, environmental factors, and human influences, all of which help us appreciate the rich and diverse plant life across the country. Tamil Nadu boasts a remarkably diverse biodiversity, stretching from the Gulf of Mannar in the south to the Western Ghats in the west. This range of ecosystems is truly unique. Now, it's interesting to note that Tamil Nadu shares the Western Ghats mountain range with several other states, namely Kerala, Karnataka, Goa, Maharashtra, and Gujarat. These mountains are a UNESCO World Heritage Site and are vital for maintaining ecological balance. On the eastern side, Tamil Nadu shares the Eastern Ghats with Andhra Pradesh. These mountain ranges are equally important and contribute significantly to the region's ecological diversity. Additionally, when we look at the broader geographic zones of India, Tamil Nadu is home to 2 key zones: the Coromandel Coast, also known as the East Coast, and the Western Ghats. These zones are crucial because they shape the region's climate, agriculture, and biodiversity. Understanding these geographical features helps us appreciate how Tamil Nadu's rich natural landscape contributes to the overall ecological wealth of India. This connection between geography and biodiversity is fundamental to our overall discussion on conservation and sustainable development. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Vegetation of India and Tamil Nadu consists of a variety of plant communities and also possesses rich biodiversity. It is classified into 4 main types, which we will explore today, each with its own unique characteristics and distribution across India and Tamil Nadu. First, we have forest vegetation, which forms the backbone of India's green cover. These forests range from tropical rainforests to temperate forests, supporting countless species of flora and fauna. They play a crucial role in maintaining ecological balance and climate regulation. Next, we have grassland vegetation. These are open, grassy areas that are often found in regions with less rainfall. They are vital for grazing, supporting livestock, and are home to many specialized plant and animal species. Third, riparian vegetation refers to plant communities that grow along riverbanks and wetlands. These plants help prevent erosion, filter water, and provide habitat for numerous aquatic and terrestrial species. Finally, aquatic and semi-aquatic vegetation includes plants that thrive in water bodies like lakes, ponds, and marshes. These ecosystems are essential for maintaining water quality, supporting fisheries, and providing habitat for many aquatic organisms. Understanding these different types of vegetation helps us appreciate the rich biodiversity of India and Tamil Nadu, and highlights the importance of conserving these diverse ecosystems as part of our overall environmental stewardship. Let's explore the classification of natural vegetation in India. This classification primarily depends on variations in rainfall across different regions, both in space and over the course of the year. But it's not just rainfall that matters. Temperature, soil type, and topography also play significant roles in determining what kind of vegetation thrives in a particular area. India's vegetation can be broadly divided into 5 main types, with 16 subtypes in total. These main types help us understand the diversity of plant life across the country and how it adapts to different environmental conditions. The first major category is moist tropical forests. Within this category, we find the tropical wet evergreen forests, which are lush and dense, typically found in regions with high rainfall. Then, there are tropical semi-evergreen forests, which are slightly less dense and occur in areas with moderate rainfall. Next, tropical moist deciduous forests shed their leaves seasonally and are quite widespread. Finally, we have littoral and swamp forests, which are specialized forests found along coasts and wetlands, adapted to wet conditions. Moving on, the second main category is dry tropical forests. Here, we see tropical dry evergreen forests, which are adapted to drier conditions and retain some of their foliage year-round. Then, tropical dry deciduous forests, which shed their leaves in the dry season to conserve water. Lastly, tropical thorn forests are found in the driest regions, characterized by thorny bushes and xerophytic plants that survive with minimal water. Understanding this classification helps us appreciate how India's vast and varied climate influences its rich biodiversity. It also provides a foundation for conservation efforts and sustainable management of natural resources across the country. Tropical forests are some of the most vital ecosystems on our planet. They cover a relatively small area, but are incredibly rich in biodiversity. When we talk about tropical forests, we're referring to regions near the equator, like the Amazon, Congo, and Southeast Asia. These forests are essential not only because they host a vast array of plant and animal species, but also because they play a crucial role in regulating the Earth's climate. They act as carbon sinks, absorbing large amounts of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. However, despite their importance, tropical forests face significant threats from deforestation, agriculture, and climate change. Protecting these forests is key to maintaining global biodiversity and climate stability. Throughout this presentation, we'll see how the health of tropical forests impacts the entire planet, emphasizing the need for sustainable management and conservation efforts. Now, let's explore the different types of forests found in these high-altitude regions. Starting with the montane subtropical forests, we have several distinct types. First, the subtropical broad-leaved hill forests, which are characterized by wide-leaved trees that thrive on the hills. Then, there are the subtropical moist hill forests, often dominated by pines, indicating a slightly drier climate. Next, we encounter the subtropical dry evergreen forests, which are adapted to even drier conditions and retain their evergreen foliage. Moving up in altitude, we enter the montane temperate forests. Here, we find the montane wet temperate forests, which are lush and receive ample rainfall. Alongside these, the Himalayan moist temperate forests are rich in biodiversity, with a variety of broad-leaved trees. Contrasting them are the Himalayan dry temperate forests, which are adapted to more arid conditions and are usually found at higher elevations. Finally, we come to the alpine forests, which are located at the highest altitudes. These include the subalpine zones, where trees are sparse and often stunted due to harsh conditions. There are also moist alpine scrub areas, characterized by shrubby vegetation with some moisture presence, and dry alpine scrub zones, which are even more arid and dominated by hardy, drought-resistant plants. Overall, these forest types illustrate the incredible diversity and adaptability of vegetation across different climatic zones and altitudes, highlighting the complex ecological gradients we see in these mountainous regions. Let's take a closer look at the distribution of forest types across India. As you can see, the most extensive forest type is tropical moist deciduous, covering about 37% of the total forest area. This indicates a significant presence of lush, green forests that support diverse flora and fauna. Next, we have tropical dry deciduous forests, making up around 28%, which are adapted to drier conditions but still vital for the region's ecological balance. Then there's tropical wet evergreen forests, constituting roughly 8%. These are typically found in the more humid regions and are known for their dense, evergreen canopies. Moving on, the subtropical moist hill forests account for about 6%, primarily found in the hill regions with moderate rainfall. Tropical semi-evergreen forests make up approximately 4%, usually in transitional zones between moist and dry forests, showcasing a mix of evergreen and deciduous species. The remaining forest types are spread over areas less than 4%, highlighting the diversity and varied climatic zones across the country. This distribution reflects India's vast ecological diversity and the importance of conserving these different forest types within our overall environmental strategy. Today, I'll talk about forest vegetation, specifically focusing on the types identified in India and Tamil Nadu. According to Champion and Seth in 1968, they recognized a total of 16 forest types across India. Out of these, 9 types are found specifically in Tamil Nadu. Let's look at one of the main types, moist tropical forests. These forests are primarily found in the warmer plains. They are characterized by being very dense, with multiple layers of trees, shrubs, lianas, and even scrub jungles. Now, what makes these forests special? Well, they experience high rainfall, which supports the lush, dense vegetation. Interestingly, despite the high rainfall, the climate can also be dry at times, which influences the types of vegetation that grow here. These moist tropical forests are further classified based on how wet they are. So, depending on the amount of moisture, the forest types can vary, but overall, they are some of the most vibrant and diverse ecosystems in the region. Connecting this to our broader theme, understanding these forest types helps us appreciate the rich biodiversity and the ecological significance of these forests in maintaining environmental balance in Tamil Nadu and India as a whole. Now, let's take a closer look at the tropical moist forest. These forests are incredibly vital ecosystems, characterized by their warm temperatures and high levels of rainfall throughout the year. This consistent moisture supports a lush, dense canopy of trees and a rich biodiversity of plants and animals. They're often called rainforests for a reason, because of the heavy, frequent rainfall that sustains their vibrant life. These forests play a crucial role in the global climate system, acting as massive carbon sinks that help regulate atmospheric CO2 levels. Their complex structure provides habitat for countless species, many of which are still undiscovered. Understanding these forests is essential because they are under significant threat from deforestation and climate change, which can lead to loss of biodiversity and disruption of global ecological balance. So, recognizing their importance helps reinforce why protecting these environments should be a priority in our overall conservation efforts. Let's take a closer look at tropical wet evergreen forests. These forests are typically found at around 1,500 meters above sea level, mainly on the slopes of hills and mountains. They are also known as tropical rain forests or tropical wet evergreen forests because of their high rainfall, which exceeds 250 centimeters annually. The climate here is quite warm, with temperatures ranging roughly from 25 to 27 degrees Celsius throughout the year. Additionally, the humidity levels are very high, averaging over 77%, and the dry season is quite short, making the environment consistently moist and lush. The vegetation in these forests is truly remarkable. You will find enormous trees that can grow over 45 meters tall, along with a variety of shrubs, lianas, and a wealth of epiphytes, which are plants that grow on other plants. Some of the common plant species include Dipterocarpus, Artocarpus, Mangifera, Imblica, and Ixora. These forests are vital for biodiversity and are found in regions like the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, the western coasts of India, the Anaimalai Hills, and parts of Assam. You can also see these forests in the Western Ghats, particularly in areas like Thirunelveli, Kanyakumari, and the Anaimalai Hills of Tamil Nadu. Overall, these forests play a crucial role in maintaining ecological balance and supporting a rich variety of flora and fauna. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Tropical semi-evergreen forests are a fascinating type of ecosystem. They typically occur on the slopes of hills and mountains, usually up to about 1,000 meters in altitude. The annual rainfall in these forests ranges between 200 to 250 centimeters, which provides the ideal moisture levels for lush growth. The vegetation here is quite remarkable, consisting of evergreen species that grow luxuriantly, including giant trees and shrubs. You'll find common tree species such as Terminalia, Bambusa, Ixora, Artocarpus, Michelia, Eugenia, and Sharia. These trees form a dense canopy that supports a rich diversity of life. Besides the trees, these forests are also home to orchids, ferns, grasses, and various herbs, making the undergrowth equally vibrant and diverse. Geographically, these forests are primarily found along the western coasts, in eastern Orissa, and in upper Assam. Interestingly, they are also present in some districts of Tamil Nadu, like Coimbatore, Thirunelveli, and Kanyakumari. Connecting this to our broader theme, understanding these forests helps us appreciate the rich biodiversity and ecological importance of tropical regions, especially in maintaining climatic balance and supporting a wide variety of flora and fauna. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Now, let's explore the tropical moist deciduous forests. These forests receive an annual rainfall of about 100 to 200 centimeters, with only short dry periods, making them quite lush and vibrant. They cover a large part of the country, spreading across many regions. During the hot summer months, many of the plants here shed their leaves to conserve water, but you'll also find some that are evergreen or semi-evergreen, maintaining their foliage year-round. Some of the common plant species you'll come across include Terminalia, Grewia, Adna, Melia, Albizia, Dalbergia, and Shorea. Among these, the most dominant are Tectona, which is better known as teak, and Sal, which is a type of hardwood. These forests are primarily found in states like Kerala, Karnataka, South Madhya Pradesh, northern Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Bengal, Orissa, and Assam. You'll also find these forests in specific areas of Tamil Nadu, such as Kanyakumari, Theni, Gudalur, Dindigul, Madurai, and the Nilgiris. Overall, these forests play a crucial role in our ecosystem, supporting a rich diversity of plant life and contributing to the overall health of our environment. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's take a closer look at the littoral and swamp forests. These include various types such as beech forests, tidal forests, mangrove forests, and freshwater swamp forests. Starting with beech forests, these are typically found along sea coasts and river deltas. The soil in these areas is mainly sandy, and it contains high levels of lime and salts, but is quite poor in nitrogen and other essential minerals. The rainfall in these regions can vary quite a bit, from about 75 centimeters to 500 centimeters, and the temperatures are generally moderate. When it comes to the trees, you'll often find species like Casuarina, Borracious, Phoenix, Pandanus, Morinda, and the Spesia, along with many climbers and twiners that add to the lushness. Moving on to tidal or mangrove forests, these are usually found near estuaries, swampy island margins, and along sea coasts. The plants here are specially adapted to salty conditions and are known as halophytes. They have unique features like stilt roots for stability in soft soils, pneumatophores that help with gas exchange in waterlogged soils, and viviparous seed germination, meaning the seeds start to grow while still attached to the parent plant. Common mangrove species include Rhizophora, Avicennia, and Soneratia. These forests are found in key regions such as the sea coasts of Gujarat, the Ganges Delta, and the delta regions of Mahanadi, Godavari, and Krishna, as well as the Sundarbans, Pulicat, Pichavaram, and parts of Ramanathapuram in Tamil Nadu. Understanding these forests is important because they form vital ecological zones, providing habitat for diverse species and protecting coastal areas from erosion. Their unique adaptations to challenging environments highlight the incredible resilience of nature. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Now let's talk about the freshwater swamp forests. These forests typically grow in low-lying areas where water from rain or nearby rivers tends to collect for a period of time. Because of this, the water table here is much closer to the surface of the earth. This creates a unique environment that supports specific types of vegetation. Some of the common plants you'll find in these forests include salix, acer, and ficus, along with various grasses and sedges. These plants are adapted to thrive in wetter conditions. It's also interesting to note that these forests are primarily found in wetlands of Tamil Nadu, particularly in places like Kanchipuram and Kanyakumari. Recognizing these ecosystems is important because they play a vital role in maintaining local biodiversity and water cycles, which ties into our overall discussion on different types of forests and their ecological significance. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's now look at the second type of dry tropical forests, which is the tropical dry deciduous forests. These forests are typically found at elevations between about 400 to 800 meters above sea level. They thrive in regions where the annual rainfall is relatively low, usually between 70 and 100 centimeters. Interestingly, this type of forest covers the largest area in our country, making it quite significant in our landscape. During the long dry season, most of the trees in these forests shed their leaves, which is a common adaptation to conserve water. The trees here are not very dense and generally grow up to 10 to 15 meters tall. Some of the common plant species you might find include Dalbergia, Diospyros, Terminalia, Acacia, Chloroxylon, Bauhinia, and Ziziphus. You'll also notice climbers like Combretum and Hyptage, and herbs such as Abutilon, Acheranthus, and Tribulus. These forests are spread across several states including Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Orissa, Madhya Pradesh, and they are also found throughout all districts of Tamil Nadu, especially at lower elevations. So, in essence, tropical dry deciduous forests are quite vital. They support a unique set of plant life adapted to dry conditions and cover a significant part of our country's landscape. Tropical dry deciduous forests are a fascinating type of ecosystem. They are characterized by trees that shed their leaves during the dry season to conserve water, which is a key adaptation to the periodic droughts they experience. These forests are typically found in regions with distinct wet and dry seasons, often in areas that are somewhat less humid than the tropical rainforests. One of the most important points to remember is that these forests support a diverse range of plant and animal life, despite being less lush than their rainforest counterparts. They play a crucial role in the overall landscape, acting as transition zones between wetter forests and drier savannas. Understanding these forests helps us appreciate how species adapt to seasonal changes and how these ecosystems are vital for local livelihoods and biodiversity. As we see, they are a perfect example of nature's resilience and adaptability within tropical regions. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Now, let's turn our attention to tropical thorn forests. These forests typically extend from the plains up to about 400 meters in elevation. They are mainly found in regions where the annual rainfall ranges between 20 and 70 centimeters, which is quite a dry climate. The dry season here is not only long but also very hot, adding to the challenging conditions these forests endure. The vegetation in these areas is quite distinctive. It's mostly open, with small trees that usually reach about 8 to 10 meters in height, and these are often thorny or spiny shrubs. The growth of these plants is stunted, which is an adaptation to the harsh environment. Interestingly, many of these plants remain leafless for most of the year, reducing water loss during the dry periods. Additionally, several species have latex, which can serve various functions, including protection from herbivores and reducing water loss. Understanding these forests helps us see how plant life adapts to extreme dryness and heat, fitting into the broader theme of ecological resilience and diversity across different climates. During the rainy season, we see a remarkable burst of growth in ephemeral herbs and grasses. These plants tend to sprout quickly and flourish due to the ample moisture. Some of the most common species you'll notice include acacia, cassia, calotropes, albizia, ziziphus, dicrostachys, euphorbia, and capparis. Interestingly, you'll also find species that are quite unpalatable, meaning they're not favored by herbivores or humans. This lush growth isn't confined to just one region. It's spread across several states in India. For example, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, South Punjab, most parts of Rajasthan, as well as some areas of Gujarat and Tirunelveli in Tamil Nadu. Understanding this seasonal vegetation is crucial because it influences local ecology, grazing patterns, and even the overall health of the ecosystem. It also ties into how these regions adapt and utilize their natural resources during the monsoon. So, these ephemeral herbs and grasses really play a key role in the landscape dynamics during the rainy season. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's talk about the tropical dry evergreen forests. This type of vegetation is typically found in regions where there is plenty of annual rainfall, but the dry season tends to be longer. So, even though it rains enough overall, the extended dry period influences the kind of vegetation that thrives here. You'll notice that the trees in these forests are quite dense and evergreen, meaning they retain their leaves year-round. They are generally short, reaching about 10 to 15 meters in height, which helps them adapt to the drier conditions. Some common plant species you'll find in these forests include Manilcara, Walsera, Diospyros, and Memicillin. These plants are well suited to survive in these environments, contributing to the unique biodiversity of the area. Geographically, these forests are mainly found in the eastern parts of Tamil Nadu and along the east coast of Andhra Pradesh. You can also see them in all the coastal districts of Tamil Nadu, from Thiruvallur all the way down to Nagapattinam. Understanding these forests is important because they form a vital part of the region's ecological landscape, and their distribution reflects how plants adapt to specific climatic conditions. This connects to the overall theme of how diverse ecosystems coexist and adapt to regional climate variations. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's now look at the montane subtropical forests. This type of vegetation occurs in areas that receive quite a bit of rainfall but have a cooler climate compared to tropical forests, yet warmer than temperate forests. They are typically found at altitudes between 1,000 meters and 2,000 meters. In these forests, you'll find mostly evergreen plants like eugenia, syzygium, and tuna. These trees are well adapted to the cooler, moist environment. You'll also notice a rich presence of epiphytes, including orchids and ferns, which thrive by growing on the host trees without harming them. This diversity adds to the lush, vibrant feel of these forests. Geographically, these forests are found in regions such as the Nilgiris, Mahabaleshwar, Assam, and Manipur. In the eastern Ghats, you'll find them on the upper slopes and plateaus of areas like Shervaroi, Kalamalai, and Pachamalai in Tamil Nadu. Overall, these forests are an important part of our ecological landscape. supporting a wide variety of plant and animal life, and they help connect the tropical and temperate forest zones in our country. These forests are classified as subtropical broad-leaved hill forests, primarily found in regions like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Karnataka, and Assam. When we look at their climatic conditions, they typically receive a mean annual rainfall ranging from 75 to 125 centimeters. The temperature in these areas remains moderate, averaging between 18 to 21 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is quite high at around 80%. In terms of distribution, you'll find these forests stretching from the eastern Himalayas to the east of 88 degrees east longitude, mainly at altitudes between 1,000 and 2,000 meters. They are predominantly composed of evergreen species, meaning they retain their leaves throughout the year. Some of the common trees include evergreen oaks, chestnuts, ash, beech, sals, and pines. Climbing plants and epiphytes, those are plants that grow on other plants without parasitizing them, are also quite prevalent here. However, it's important to note that these forests aren't very distinct in the southern parts of India. They are mainly confined to the Nilgiri and Palni hills, at elevations of about 1070 to 1525 meters above sea level. In these areas, you find what's called a stunted rainforest, which is less lush and dense compared to the true tropical evergreen forests. You'll also see these types of forests in the higher regions of the Western Ghats, like Mahabaleshwar, as well as on the summits of the Satpura and Makel ranges, and in the highlands of Bastar and Mount Abu in the Aravalli range. These are essentially subtypes of the main forest category, adapted to higher elevations and slightly different climatic conditions. Let's talk about the subtropical pine forests found in regions like Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, and parts of Sikkim. These forests are primarily distributed in the western Himalayas, roughly between 73 degrees east and 88 degrees east longitudes. They thrive at elevations ranging from about 1,000 to 2,000 meters above sea level. You'll also find some of these forests in hilly areas of Arunachal Pradesh, Manipur, the Naga Hills, and Khasi Hills. Now, when it comes to the trees themselves, the most dominant species is the chur or chill pine. This tree often forms pure stands, meaning large, dense groves of just one species, which is quite characteristic of these forests. Chur or chill pine is highly valued because it provides very good timber, used for making furniture, boxes, and even buildings. Beyond that, it has other uses as well. It's a source of resin and turpentine, which are important in various industrial processes. So, these forests are not only important ecologically, but also economically, supporting local industries and livelihoods. They are a key part of the overall forest landscape in these Himalayan regions. Now, let's talk about the subtropical dry evergreen forests, which are found in the shivaliks and the foothills of the western Himalayas. These forests are quite unique in their distribution, as they are primarily located in the Babar region, the shivaliks, and the western Himalayas, up to about 1,000 meters above sea level. In terms of climate, these forests experience an annual rainfall of around 50 to 100 centimeters. Interestingly, during the winter months, specifically from December to March, the rainfall drops to about 15 to 25 centimeters. Summers tend to be quite hot, while winters can be very cold, which influences the types of vegetation that can thrive here. The forests themselves are characterized by low scrub growth, with small, evergreen, and often stunted trees and shrubs. This adaptation helps them survive in the dry conditions. Some of the most prominent tree species you'll find here include olives, Acacia modesta, and Pistacia. These species are well suited to the dry, semi-arid environment of the region. Understanding these forests helps us appreciate how vegetation adapts to specific climatic and geographical conditions, and they form an important part of the Himalayan ecosystem. Now, let's move on to the montane temperate forests, which are quite fascinating. These forests grow in areas where the humidity and temperature are relatively low compared to other forest types. Despite the cooler conditions, they are very dense, with a lush growth of grasses and evergreen trees that can reach heights of 15 to 45 meters. You'll typically find plants like Artocarpus, Balanocarpus, Pterocarpus, Myristica, along with various woody climbers, ferns, and epiphytes hanging onto the trees. Because of their moist conditions on mountain slopes, these forests are also known as mountain wet temperate forests. In our region, these forests are mainly found in the Himalayan mountain ranges. Specifically in Tamil Nadu, montane forests are mostly confined to moist, sheltered valleys, glens, and hollows, like those on the peaks of the Anaimalai, Nilgiris, and Palani hills, generally above 1,000 meters elevation. In Tamil, these forests are called sholas. The typical vegetation in these sholas includes species such as ilex, syzygium, mechelia, urea, and rhododendron. And interestingly, these forests are further classified into different types based on specific characteristics. But the key takeaway is their unique adaptation to cooler, moist mountain environments. Understanding these forests helps us appreciate the incredible diversity of our mountain ecosystems and their vital role in maintaining ecological balance. Now, let's turn our attention to the montane wet temperate forests. These forests are typically found at elevations ranging from about 1,800 to 3,000 meters above sea level. The climate here is quite specific. They receive a significant amount of rainfall, between 150 to 300 centimeters annually, which sustains the lush greenery. The temperatures are moderate, averaging around 11 to 14 degrees Celsius, making it a cool and moist environment. Additionally, the relative humidity is consistently high, often exceeding 80%, creating ideal conditions for the growth of mosses and epiphytes. Geographically, you'll find these forests primarily on the higher hills of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, as well as in the eastern Himalayan region. These areas provide the perfect altitude and climate for these unique ecosystems. Now, regarding their characteristics, these forests are typically closed evergreen forests. The trees tend to have large girth trunks, and their branches are often draped with mosses, ferns, and other epiphytes, giving the forest a lush, layered appearance. Interestingly, the trees rarely grow taller than about 6 meters, which contributes to their dense canopy and undergrowth. Some of the key tree species you'll encounter here include deodar, chilani, Indian chestnut, birch, plum, macalus, cinnamomum, litsea, magnolia, blue pine, oak, and hemlock. These species are vital to the forest's ecology and support a diverse array of wildlife. So, in essence, these montane wet temperate forests are a vital part of our mountain ecosystems, characterized by their moist, cool climate, dense evergreen canopies, and rich biodiversity. They play a crucial role in maintaining ecological balance in these high-altitude regions. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Now, let's take a closer look at the Himalayan moist temperate forests. These forests are characterized by specific climatic conditions, with annual rainfall ranging from about 150 to 250 centimeters. This ample rainfall supports the lush greenery you find here. In terms of distribution, these forests are found in the temperate zone of the Himalayas, at elevations between 1,500 and 3,300 meters. They stretch across the entire length of the mountain range, covering regions in Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Darjeeling, and Sikkim. The main vegetation here is coniferous species, which occur mostly in pure strands, so you'll see large, dense stands of these trees. They are quite tall, typically ranging from 30 to 50 meters in height. The dominant trees include pines, cedars, silver firs, and spruces. These trees form high, yet fairly open forests, with a shrubby undergrowth that includes oaks, rhododendrons, and even some bamboos. This forest type is also valuable for timber. The wood from these trees is of high quality and is widely used for construction, making timber and railway sleepers. So not only are these forests ecologically important, but they also have significant economic value, connecting to the broader theme of forest resources and their utilization. Now, let's take a closer look at the Himalayan dry temperate forests. The climate here is quite distinctive, with annual precipitation typically below 100 centimeters, and most of it falling as snow during the colder months. This limited rainfall significantly influences the type of vegetation that can thrive in this region. The forests are primarily coniferous, consisting of trees like deodar, oak, ash, and even olive in some areas. Alongside these trees, you'll find xerophytic shrubs, which are specially adapted to survive in drier conditions. These plants have developed unique features to conserve water, making them well-suited to this environment. When it comes to distribution, these forests are mainly found in the inner dry ranges of the Himalayas. They are situated where the southwest monsoon's influence is quite weak, meaning the region doesn't receive heavy rainfall typical of other Himalayan areas. Specifically, you'll find these forests in places like Ladakh, Lahul, Chamba, Kinnaur, Garhwal, and Sikkim. Recognizing these regions helps us understand how the Himalayas vary in climate and vegetation as we move across different altitudes and areas. Understanding these forests is important because they reflect the unique adaptations of flora to the Himalayan climate, which is a key part of the overall diversity and ecological complexity of the Himalayas. Now, let's talk about the subalpine forests. These forests are typically found at altitudes between 2,900 meters and 3,500 meters. At these heights, you'll notice that snowfall occurs for several weeks each year, and the annual rainfall is relatively low, less than 65 centimeters. Because of these conditions, the environment is quite harsh. Strong winds and temperatures often drop below 0 degrees Celsius dominate for much of the year. Despite these challenging conditions, a variety of hardy tree species thrive here. You'll find abais, pinus, beechaleah, quercus, salix, and rhododendron. These forests are also home to a rich diversity of epiphytic orchids, mosses, and lichens, which add to the ecological richness of the region. Geographically, these forests stretch across the Himalayas from Ladakh in the west all the way to Arunachal Pradesh in the east, including regions like Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, Assam, and Jammu and Kashmir. So, in essence, these forests are a vital part of the Himalayan ecosystem, adapted to survive in some of the most extreme mountain conditions, and they play a crucial role in maintaining the ecological balance of this diverse region. Let's take a closer look at the subalpine forest. This zone is situated just below the treeline in mountainous regions, and it has some very distinctive features. The trees here are typically adapted to harsher conditions, with shorter growing seasons and more extreme weather. You'll often see conifers like pines and spruces, which are well suited to withstand cold temperatures and heavy snow. One of the key points about the subalpine forest is its role in the broader ecosystem. It acts as a transitional zone, where the diversity of plant and animal life begins to change as we move higher into the alpine areas. These forests are crucial for preventing erosion and maintaining water quality, as their roots stabilize the soil. It's also interesting to note that the flora and fauna here are specially adapted to survive in these challenging conditions, making this zone a vital part of the mountain environment. Connecting this to our overall theme, understanding the subalpine forest helps us appreciate how ecosystems adapt to elevation and climate, and how each zone plays a unique role in sustaining mountain biodiversity. Today, let's take a closer look at the VI Alpine Scrub Zone. This type of vegetation is typically found in the Himalayas, specifically at high altitudes ranging from about 3,600 meters up to 4,900 meters. As you go higher in elevation, you'll notice that the trees tend to get smaller and smaller. This is because the harsh climatic conditions at these altitudes limit the growth of larger vegetation. In this zone, you'll mainly find small-sized plants such as sedum, primula, saxifraga, and rhododendron, along with juniperus. You'll also see many types of lichens, which are specially adapted to survive in these extreme conditions. These plants are further classified based on their growth forms and adaptations to the environment. Recognizing these classifications helps us understand how life persists in such challenging environments. Connecting this to the overall theme, it's fascinating to see how plants adapt to survive in the high Himalayas, contributing to the unique biodiversity of this region. Let's take a closer look at the altitudes ranging between 2,900 and 3,500 meters. Within this zone, we find different types of forests, which can be categorized into three main types: subalpine forests, moist alpine scrub, and dry alpine scrub. The subalpine forests are found just below the alpine scrub and grasslands. These forests are a fascinating mix of coniferous and broad-leaved trees. For example, conifers like fir and spruce can grow up to about 30 meters tall, while the broad-leaved trees tend to be shorter, reaching only around 10 meters. Important species here include fir, spruce, and rhododendron, which are quite characteristic of this zone. Moving higher, we encounter the moist alpine scrub. This is a dense, low evergreen growth of plants like rhododendron and birch, which extends from about 3,000 meters up to the snowline. The environment here is moist and cooler, supporting these lush, evergreen shrubs. At the highest elevations, above 3,500 meters, we find the dry alpine scrub. This zone represents the uppermost limit of scrub vegetation, consisting mainly of xerophytic, dwarf shrubs that can withstand the dry conditions of this zone. Important species here include juniper, honeysuckle, and artemisia. Connecting this to the overall theme, these different forest and scrub types tell us a lot about how vegetation adapts to altitude, climate, and soil conditions in mountain environments. Understanding these zones helps us appreciate the diversity and resilience of mountain ecosystems. Now, let's talk about the moist alpine scrubs, which are a fascinating part of the Himalayan ecosystem. You'll find these moist alpine regions stretching along the Himalayas and on the higher hills near the Myanmar border. What makes these areas unique is their dense, evergreen forests, mainly composed of rhododendron and birch trees. These plants are well adapted to the cool, moist conditions of the region. The ground here is often covered with patches of mosses and ferns, adding to the lush, green appearance of the landscape. An important aspect of this region is the heavy snowfall it receives, which influences the plant life and the overall ecology. Understanding these moist alpine scrubs helps us appreciate the diversity of Himalayan ecosystems and their adaptation to extreme weather conditions. It also highlights how these areas contribute to the overall ecological balance and biodiversity of the region. Today, let's take a closer look at moist alpine forests. These forests are fascinating because they thrive in high-altitude environments where conditions are cooler and often wetter. The moisture levels in these forests are quite high, which supports a diverse range of plant and animal life. You'll notice the lush greenery and the variety of mosses, lichens, and other moisture-loving plants that dominate these areas. One of the key points to remember is that despite the harsh conditions, these forests are incredibly resilient and serve as vital ecosystems. They play a crucial role in maintaining local climate stability and supporting biodiversity. Connecting this to our overall theme, moist alpine forests highlight how specific environmental conditions shape unique ecosystems that are essential for ecological balance and climate regulation. So, understanding these forests helps us appreciate the complexity and importance of high-altitude ecosystems in our broader environmental context. Now, let's take a closer look at dry alpine scrubs. These are found at elevations roughly between 3,000 and 4,900 meters. In these harsh, high-altitude environments, you'll mostly find dwarf plants that have adapted to survive with limited water and extreme conditions. Key species include the black juniper and the drooping juniper, which are quite characteristic of this zone. Additionally, you'll notice plants like honeysuckle and willow, which have developed unique adaptations to thrive here. Understanding these dry alpine scrubs helps us appreciate how life persists even in the most extreme conditions, reinforcing the resilience of mountain ecosystems we've been exploring throughout this presentation. These are natural forest types, and in total, there are 16 different types, as identified by Champion and Seth back in 1968. What's interesting here is that these classifications help us understand the diversity and complexity of forest ecosystems. Each type has its unique characteristics and plays a specific role within the larger ecological landscape. Recognizing these types is crucial because it allows us to approach forest management and conservation with more precision. It ties into the overall theme of our presentation, which is about understanding forest diversity and how it informs sustainable practices. So, These 16 types serve as a foundation for appreciating the richness of our natural forests and the importance of protecting them.